Hey, what's up, everybody? Yes, I am back. I'm so glad that you took the time and found the time to spend some time with me. And I know, yeah, you like, Chick, you've been gone for like 7 episodes and now you decide to pop up. Yeah, but I've been keeping up, and that's why I'm here to talk about it. And I want to do like a mashup of all the episodes up until now, and let's just get into it, okay? All right. So, we have our five couples. Yes, we have Eric and Virginia, Ryan and Clara, Jacob and Haley, and we have Brianna and Vincent, and the infamous Paige and Chris. And I didn't even leave them for last on purpose. I was just hoping that I was right with the five. So we have our five couples, and up until this point, I have to express that I'm just disgusted. I'm just worn out by this entire season, and I'm starting to get worn out with every couple for different reasons. Um so let's just get the mess out of the way, because that's going to be the longest part of this. Chris and Paige, it is really time to turn the page. From the time that Paige decided that she wanted to give her vagina to Chris on their wedding night, and then the morning after, and then proceed to give him her vagina after he has told her he has no attraction whatsoever to her, and basically he doesn't want to be in this shit. She still allows him to finagle with her mind, and she allows herself to be reeled back in with whatever garbage he's spewing out of his mouth, because nothing he says is enough for her to want to keep starting over and over and over again. Then we got the baby and the baby mama, Miss Mercedes, who he introduces before we even get to meet her. He finds out that he has this baby on the way, and I'm like, okay, so clearly this is going to be over. I don't know what they're going to do. This is going to be done. No, she just says she doesn't know what to do. And I was here with Brianna and Vincent. If it were me, I would have let that go. And a point that I caught when he sat down with Vincent, Vincent asked him, you know, in a subtle way, was he sure that the child was his? And he had no problem answering the question. He was like, yes. But when fast forward, when Virginia asked, are you sure it's yours? He got greatly offended. And I'm wondering, was the offense because he didn't confide in her? And that makes sense. He didn't confide in her, so you don't have to be commenting on whether or not this is my baby. I don't know you like that. I don't talk to you. I didn't even have to share this with you. So yeah, all of that time with Chris, Virginia, and Eric, I was totally here for Chris. He was well in his right to say what he said. One of my favorite scenes was when he got Clara and Virginia together for coming at him about his relationship with Paige. He was like, that's my wife. I don't owe you an explanation, and I would respect and appreciate if you would keep your fake concern to yourself and let us handle our situation on our own. While they said it wasn't fake concern, it's just concern for Paige, not him. And that was valid. But when the sun sets, that is still their relationship or situationship to figure out. So it wasn't in Virginia and Claire's place to stick their nose in that business. But another funny thing that happened during that scene was when Eric came over and was like, "God, dude, calm down. Just chill. It's okay." He was very calm and wanted to be diplomatic and try and diffuse the situation, even though Chris was already on 10 and was like, "This is what you wanted, so I'm gonna give you what you want." But when he came to dinner late again, he was on a whole nother level, telling Chris what he won't do, what he better not do, what he can't do, and if he has anything to say, he needs to address him and him only. He doesn't need to address Virginia, when in fact, prior to their entrance, Chris had already apologized to the entire group for his behavior. He apologized to Paige. And at this point, I was here with Jacob, take it with a grain of salt. At this point, I'm going to accept the apology and move on from here. But Jacob was hungry, I was sleepy, so let's move on. And everybody agreed. It was a general consensus that Eric's character was totally off and he was out of pocket. I really think that during that honeymoon time that Eric was so focused on trying to appease and accommodate Virginia, he was not himself. He was outside of himself. I want to believe that he wouldn't have acted that way had he not been drinking so much, because he was drinking a lot, because Virginia drinks a lot. But Chris and Paige are exhausting. Paige decided that she still wants to try and make something work after finding out he has this baby. She feels like she keeps saying that this is ordained by God. This is not ordained by God. I think she needs to read a little bit further in her scripture, because it does read about, and I'm not quoting it, but it does read about if you're unequally yoked, and if your partner isn't serving Christ the way you're serving Christ, he makes for admission for separation of marriage. And like I've heard in other reviews about something different, but in regards to marriage, God doesn't recognize the unions recognized by the states. Church and state are separate for a reason, and he doesn't even recognize the church. When you get married in church, is a symbol of your union, but your union starts before that piece of paper. That piece of paper isn't, yeah, but that's a whole nother story. And if you have your opinions on that topic, I encourage you to leave it in the comments section below. But Paige and Chris have been absolutely exhausting. Paige has been most exhausting because she's allowing herself to be sucked back in to Chris's shenanigans. Like, really doesn't make any sense why you would keep going back. I don't understand it. I don't want to think that's just for television, because I would not put myself through that kind of ridicule and embarrassment all for the sake of TV, because your face is out there and we know your face forever. And I'm sure she thought she was getting her man of God, and clearly that's not what she got. Like the pastor told her, a man who is like wayward in all their thoughts is a I don't want to misquote, but he's definitely confused and he's not consistent. He's inconsistent, definitely. Um, he says one thing and acts another way. He is trying to manipulate the situation in his favor. And when Paige finally started standing up and was like, you know what, I'm not going to accept this, I'm just done, it's cool, he wanted to try and reel her back in. Also, he could tell her now that it's not working for him. I mean, it's not even a cat and mouse. I It's abuse. Nobody deserves to go through that type of turmoil and back and forth, especially with a stranger. Why are you investing so much time? It's been 23 days. Count my blessings, cut my losses, and thou shalt move on. Clearly, right now, Paige is in a position where she's blocking her blessing because she wants to play house with Chris, while Chris is over here making a family with somebody else. But I think they mentioned that in the blogs, fast forward, just that Mercedes lost the baby. I don't know if that's correct. Leave it in the comments below. But for the sake of where we are in the present, he's making a family. She's saying she's trying to build a family. And I just feel like, girl, you need to move on. And there's no reason to be torn in your decision. You just have to do what is best for you. But in the present, where they are right now, we have them wanting to hit yet again another reset button. For what reason, I don't know. And that reset went to Offset because Chris again said that wasn't something that he was feeling. It wasn't something that he wanted to do, he was ready to do. And then when they meet with Dr. Viviana to compromise, so to speak, on what is Chris willing to give at this point to try and salvage this friendship or relationship or whatever this is. And Paige said she was willing to accept a phone call. You know, every day, every other day. Phone call, a text. Chris said that he felt like he was being forced. Like he didn't want to feel like he was being forced into doing something. And so then Paige proposed, well, what are you willing, what do you feel comfortable with at this point, at this stage? What are you comfortable with doing? And he says he doesn't mind going out to eat. He doesn't mind going out for walks. He doesn't mind, meeting up to go out to dinner. And she said, I'm not even on trying to go out with you right now. And Dr. Viviana said what she asked for is way less than what you just mentioned. And his response was, this is so confusing. Because you are confused. You are confused in all of your ways and all of everything that you do. And I really feel like I'm starting to wonder if Chris made a promise to Mercedes outside of the camera, because he's not staying in the apartment with Paige. He's not staying there. He went to Chicago, came back. We haven't seen his place. We saw Paige's, if I'm not mistaken, but we haven't seen his place. So, I mean, we don't know where he's staying. In this most recent episode, he was like he bought her Harold's Chicken from Chicago. And I'm like, well, I didn't look it up, but is there a Harold's in Georgia? Because they're in Atlanta. And he said he brought that from Chicago. So he's doing a lot of commuting. And I'm like, what's that about? Um, he he said that he wanted to their activity Bible study. But then he didn't have any scripture. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting her? Well, we're not going to ask that question because she's letting it happen. And then he decides to drop on her. He has to tell a whole story, all to drop on her that he bought baby mama a brand new Benz. And she's like, okay, I can understand transportation because certainly you don't want your child and the mother of your child um, to not be secure and be able to get where they need to be. So having a vehicle, I understand. But a Mercedes, why it have to be a Mercedes? And he's like, why not? Over it. Really, really over it. Let's move on and let's talk about Brianna and Vincent. Brianna and Vincent. I'm still on the fence about Vincent because I want to know what he means by somebody having his back. I realized, I figured this out before Dr. Viviana even said it, that Vincent is working so hard to want to impress Brianna that if something doesn't go right, or if he feels embarrassed, or if he's not good at something, then he feels inadequate. So he only wants to do those things that he knows he's going to excel at so he can look good. Well, that's not realistic because you're not good at everything and you're not going to be good at everything, and she doesn't expect you to. Perfection is not existent, and it's just want you to be you. She's gonna be her, you be you, and you all grow together. The dancing class, when they went dancing and he cut up, I thought, first of all, why didn't he pick a different shirt? Because he was busting out of that bitch. I was like, OMG. And he admitted he had picked up a little weight, but you saw that when you were butting it. It was gone. But he really cut up and he was like, oh, well, if we would have done bachata and that was told to me by my bae, that is one of their native dances. Am I saying that right? Native dance? Native dances. Yeah. So it's a dance instructor. And I'm sure he knows the salsa, the merengue. Maybe he should have asked him if he knew bachata. And they could have done that. Because if you want to look good, just ask him instead of pouting. And I just wish that he would have chosen a different way to do that. But I'm glad that he did acknowledge and see that he was out of line. Looking. Oh, they also talked about pattern. Right now, I think they just have to learn each other's language and communication, because when Brianna's joking, he takes it personal into heart when she's really just joking. and she has made an effort to understand like what she said so that she can be mindful of how she says things. But he says he doesn't want her to not be her, but he's a person that tries to pick his words when he's speaking to somebody, especially somebody that he cares about. He tries to select his words, and he wants her to mirror that more. And I feel like sometimes you just have to say things. You just have to say it the way it is. And you're not trying to be hurtful or disrespectful. But sometimes when you try and be so careful with how you say something, you're not always as truthful as you should be. That's my opinion on that. That's been my experience. And I just feel like you should just, as respectful as possible, just express your thought and your feeling, because it's yours and you're entitled to that. And it's not to have a dig at somebody else or make them feel less than. It's just for you to share with them how you're feeling about something, and so that they can understand, and so that you guys can then later on figure out, okay, how can we work together to find some happy medium so that everyone feels comfortable. And I think that's what they, generally came to. I like the cute little game that they played with the blindfolds and the food and stuff. It was corny, but the getting to know me was cute, and see how much they knew about each other. I think that was really good. Really too much hasn't been going on with them. I mean, I know like they had a few hiccups and flips, but other than that, I mean, they've really come to be like okay, and I think that's good. Um, let's talk about Eric and Virginia. Let's get them out of the way because this is another couple that I don't like. I don't like Eric. I don't like Virginia. And I just came to not like Eric because I realized Eric is one of those people that he wants you to bend and make concession for the things that he's not comfortable with, or he doesn't like, and he wants you to change those things. Even though he's saying that he doesn't want you to, he really does. But when it comes to him and him just seeing things from a different spectrum, seeing things through a different lens, he's like, nope, I believe in what I believe in, and that's that. I appreciated that he did take the time to meet two of Virginia's friends, and he seemed to like them very much. And while he doesn't have a problem with her hanging out and talking to them because he met them and he knows them, anybody else he doesn't feel comfortable with, because he wants to know the level of relationship that's there, i.e., have you dated these people before? Are these exes? Did you smash them? I need to know what their level is. And if it was any of that, he feels like, well, you don't need to be talking to them. How I feel about that, I don't see why, especially being married, why there would be a need to keep in contact with an ex like that. Like, for instance, I have exes that text me once a year. They text me on my birthday. My baby knows that. He's like, okay. He says it's weird, but he's cool with it. I'm like, that's the only time that I hear from a few of them. They text me happy birthday. But to just be like, hey, how are you? What's going on? And just keeping, no. life is life, life is change, and life moves on. So you're a married woman now, and you should be getting to build and bond and create this family dynamic with your husband if that's really what you want. I really feel like, okay, this is how I feel about Eric and Virginia. I think they're a bad match. I think they're a bad match because Eric is really hung up on age. Okay, it's an 8 year difference. He's 34, she's 26. Um, Realistically speaking, if it was anybody else that was more family oriented, career goal oriented, um, more settled in their mindset, that age difference wouldn't be a big deal, and Eric wouldn't be having this tug of war with Virginia, who is not settled. She likes to drink and party. She's 50-50 on children, which I'm not totally against her on that because where you all are, you're strangers, you don't even know each other. So I wouldn't even be talking about children. She said she would wait till she was around 30, and that's 4 years. I think that's reasonable. People who have known each other for a long time, you know, sometimes agree that they're going to put children off for maybe 2 to who knows 5 years, depending on their age, um, after they get married, because people want to have that time to grow and bond together before they bring children into the picture. I mean, that's a huge responsibility you are giving of yourself 24/7. So you don't want to, before you even had time to really get into your marriage, you're already bringing children into the picture. And like Virginia says, she's really familiar with divorce. That's what she knows. So I think that in fairness, she was good with saying, let's wait 4 years. But I mean, he made the comment straight up like, if she doesn't want children, I'm done. It's like, okay. So if Virginia wanted to say, if you want me to stop drinking, I'm done. Are you okay with that? Because it was so concrete and so definite, just so finite, till just how he talks sometimes is just very off-putting. It's like, what for? I don't understand it. Virginia, she just drinks too much. She drinks entirely too much. And I noticed, if you go back in my review and we were going over their occupations, their careers, and she had in her title, it said customer experience specialist. Go back in my review and you'll see that I mentioned that. Well, this most recent episode, I noticed that it said account coordinator. So they came up with a better title for customer service rep. Instead of that, they're like, no, we're going to call you an account coordinator. Because I'm like, I remember it saying customer experience specialist. But hey, I guess we want to sound more professional. Um yeah, I really feel like Virginia has reasons to be skeptical because he is like really switching up. He wanted her to call and text while she was out of town. When he went out of town, she was like, I barely heard from you. He was like, well, that's my job. That's just, how it's going to be. And you just have to get used to it. And I'm like, bitch, where? You can't ask me to do something that you're not willing to do, there has to be some concession for you to make the same lenience that you are expecting me to make for you. Holla if you hear me. Um, who else was on this goddamn show? Ryan and Clara. Ryan and Clara. Clara needs to pump the brakes on her puss and appreciate that, okay, somebody is not just trying to get in your panties. He just doesn't want you for sex. So appreciate that and put an ice cube in it. I don't know, beat your meat, calm it down, but just try and grow and get to know him and understand him. Ryan, chill with the BS. Pause. And I'm back. Okay. Before I was so rudely interrupted, who was I talking about? Who was I talking about?
You were about to jump on Ryan.
Ryan. Thank you. Ryan is with the BS. If he's been in long-term relationships before, okay, so he's never said I love you. Again, you've been in 2 and 3 year relationships. I don't know why they stayed. Maybe they were hopeful that it would happen. But I'm going out on a limb. At first I was thinking, wondering maybe he's a virgin. He didn't tell nobody. But sex is sex. I don't care what kind of sex you're getting down with. If it's the vaginal, if it's the anal, if it's the oral, I don't care. It's sex. So Clara said that they are having sex. They're just not, he hasn't taken her, as she said, to Pound Town. So if she can give you fellatio, why can't you penetrate her, Ryan? And you said there has to be trust. Okay, no problem. But I don't think Clara is going to stick around for 8 weeks and not have sex. She's like, I'm going to be done. However, she's also the same one that throws around the I love you. She's admitted that, she says I love you quickly in relationships. And she also expressed that she's never had intimate relationship that had an emotional connection, and that's disturbing, because for you to say it's just sex, okay, yes, it's a physical act, but there was